Ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed, I'd like to welcome you all to a very special event that happens every year, and it only happens in places and institutions that have or hold themselves accountable to we, the end users, the consumers, the various stakeholders in the ecosystem of aviation. I'd like to thank, first and foremost, recognizing the presence of the board that is here, headed by the chair. Let's give him a round of applause. And we are going to hear the state of aviation in the country, and also we'll have a panel later on that will delve into matters related to aviation and tourism. What I have to say is that Uganda Civil Aviation Authority is pretty much like the gatekeeper of Uganda's beauty and tourism, because it's very hard to come from very far and not use the Entebbe airport to access the country. So I also look at it as the gatekeeping function that is played. But I'm not here to preempt anyone's speech or give any statistics of what has happened, what was, what is. Please allow me to allow those whose duty it is to explain to us why we're here. And on that note, please allow me to invite the head of public communications from Uganda Civil Aviation Authority, Mr. Vianney Luja, to give us a few remarks and then invite our keynote speaker. Thank you very much. Let's give him a round of applause. And just to remind you, we are live on television. Thank you.
A very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The guest of honor, members of the board, our keynote speaker, distinguished aviation stakeholders, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Vianney Luja, as ably introduced, and it's a great pleasure and honor for me to add my voice to that of Roger in warmly welcoming you all to this morning's Aviation Week Stakeholders Engagement Breakfast, an activity that we hold once every year at the end of the year to take stock of the things that have happened in the aviation industry throughout the year, but also hear from you, our dear valuable stakeholders, so that we align and be able to move together in the same direction. This is the climax of the Aviation Week celebrations. We started off with a number of sporting events that we held earlier on. We started off with a chess tournament in memory of the late Cyril Rawushenyi, who is our former director airports and also a founding member of the Uganda Chess Federation. We then had a basketball gala, one-day event in Entebbe that involved stakeholders from Entebbe and other sporting teams. We then had a seniors golf tournament in Kampala, where we had seniors above 55 years playing golf and joining us in these celebrations. That's one of the flagship sporting events that we have always had as part of these celebrations. And then we crowned off the sporting activities with a netball gala, again in Entebbe at the Fresh Handling Ground last weekend. Here we are now for the big one that we hold to get valuable feedback from you, to reflect and look at what has happened throughout the year. And as we conclude the year, today's discussions will ably help us align our priorities, address emerging challenges, and explore opportunities that will guide our collective efforts in the year ahead. We value your insights and look forward to an open and constructive exchange. It is now my big distinguished honor and pleasure, with that preamble, to warmly welcome our Director General, Mr. Fred Keba Mwesige, to deliver a presentation on the state of the aviation industry in Uganda. You're most welcome, Digi.
Our chief guest, representing the Minister of Works and Transport, Honorable Justice Stephen Kavuma, who is also substantively the chair of the UCAA Board of Directors and members of your board who are also present in this room, representatives from the Ministry of Works and Transport who are also here, industry stakeholders in your various capacities. I can see all our airlines present here, and the chair of the Airlines Association is here also, together with members of the airlines. Other industry stakeholders like ground handling agencies. I can see other operators also in here. And of course, not forgetting the team at Uganda Civil Aviation Authority who are also present in this room. As the Master of Ceremonies for this morning has said, this is one of the moments, the days where we come out not just as a CAA system, but also the aviation sector, subsector, to account to all stakeholders of what we have been doing throughout the year, including the difficulties we have found in the year, to be able to move into the next year with some kind of clean slate. Slate, I mean S. So that we are able to move with everybody whom we represent in this aviation industry. Therefore, this being the apex of all of the activities of the Aviation Week, which has been our aviation tradition all over, is a good thing. We always think we should be able to account. And people who are in this room are just simply a few, but the rest are all watching us on media platforms, as you have heard. So allow me, with those words of introduction, Chief Guest, to move into the real presentation, which is being kindly projected on the screens. Go to the next slide. I start with the outline. Yes. The introduction part of which I have done, but also to remind ourselves about the mandate of UCAA in its entirety, the air traffic performance at Entebbe International Airport, also a bit of the air, reminding ourselves of the air operators and the numbers that have been increasing, the infrastructure upgrades of the projects, other milestones, global trends, future plans, and of course challenges. Just to welcome you once again to this meeting, which is of course an opportunity, as I have said, to interact with you, our valued stakeholders, and update you, the industry players, on the following, on milestones attained in the course of the year as per last year's plans, which were also explained to you here. At the same time, last year, to provide an update on the plans for 2026 and also get valuable feedback for continuous improvement. Just because I know that you know the mandate of UCA, most of you, but just to remind ourselves, and these are really, the mandate as stated in the Act of Parliament that we currently have, and of course summarized, that we are here to promote the safe, secure, regular, and efficient use and development of the civil aviation, to advise government in relation to civil aviation policy matters and international conventions and other legal instruments, regulation of air transport in Uganda, management and development of airports in the country for now, and provide a provision of air traffic and navigation services, among others. These are just key mandates. Let's start with the air traffic performance at Entebbe International Airport. I should have said, of course, and these other airports in the country. This is a graphic representation of what is happening, but of important to note, if you look at the international passengers, start with international passengers, those bars are showing obviously increase in the number of passengers that we receive every year. The first year we started with was 2024, rather 2023, 24, 24, 20, 23, 24, 24, 25. I'm not seeing 20. And then you can see 23, 24, and 25. You see the number of passengers, how they have been increasing. In fact, if you check, you'll see the statistics later in terms of figures. You see that we have almost, from last year, the number of passengers have increased almost coming to 10%, which is not very small increase in terms of readiness in facilities and other areas of handling. You can see if you move to, yes, here it is showing 8.8, but I can assure you by the end of this year, which still has 1 month we have not covered, we are likely to hit something like 9.8 or something like 10% increase. This is simply another representation showing the traffic at Entebbe, graphical representation, same as the bar charts you are having. And traffic impact in the January-November 25 traffic of 2,247,000 international passengers has already surpassed the entire 2024 traffic of that figure, even before adding the busy December month. December month is one of our busiest months, and you know why? Because people are moving up and down for Christmas and other things, and New Year. And similarly, January to November 2025, cargo is already at the same level as the entire cargo figure of 2024, again, also on the increase. Overall, air traffic registered increase is due to commencement of Uganda Airlines flights to Gatwick, Harare, and Kinshasa routes, plus other new air operators joining the Ugandan airspace. Also, the other reason was sustained promotion of tourism by the tourism sector, and we want to thank them so much, and they are here. Resumption of international conferences and major sports events such as the Arab African Congress and the hosting of CHAN, among others. Cargo traffic grew as a result of stable economic environment and increased international trade. Our air operators, who are these air operators? Uganda is currently served by 19 international scheduled operators. Of course, these are not the numbers we want. We are trying very hard to increase them. And as a matter of fact, just evening yesterday, we had 2. Yesterday, we received 2 air operators. One, Safari Link from Kenya, and this has really unique scheduling of routes from Nairobi to Kisumu to Entebbe. We also, in the evening, received Malawi Airlines. Please, I hope I am pronouncing it properly because there is a tendency to call it Air Malawi, but this is Malawi Airlines, directly from Blantyre to Entebbe every day, and it has many, many passengers. There are 27 licensed operators. A new license was granted to Arosas Air. Renewal of license were granted to 3 air operators. New operators of new routes, FunJet Express Limited commenced flights on September 29th between Nairobi and Entebbe. Flynas commenced flights on the Riyadh-Entebbe route effective January 16th, 2025. Uganda Airlines commenced one new route to London Gatwick in May 2025. Malawi Airlines, I have already talked about it, and Sun Safari Link. Those ones I've just talked about them. They were received yesterday. Uganda also participated in the 17th ICAO Air Service Negotiations ICANN 2025 event in Punta Cana, Dominican Republic. And usually when we go there, we are trying to negotiate and persuade air operators to come to Uganda. The BASA is bilateral air service agreements. Negotiations were held with 6 countries: Argentina Republic, this is a new one, Eswatini, it is a review. Denmark, it is new. Guyana is a new one. Norway is a new one. And Sweden is a new one. Uganda, Basa was signed and bilateral consultations were held with Malaysia during the aforementioned event. The Uganda Central African Republic bilateral air service agreement was also signed on 16th May in Kampala. Uganda also with Latvia signed a BASA on the sidelines of the Latvia African Forum in Latvia. The Uganda-Ethiopian BASA was also signed on April 4th in Addis Ababa. And to date, Uganda has concluded bilateral air service agreements with 64 countries. These, many of them are ongoing and will be updating the country on what? Then infrastructure upgrades. We have been really very busy in infrastructure upgrades, if you have noticed. And many of these have been going on unnoticed, unfortunately, because it is also our intention that we really deal with this away from the public eyes many times, because if you do that, if you promise and then you don't do it quickly, then you face the challenges of being really severely criticized. And we are very much alive to those. But we completed 20,000 square meter passenger terminal building, and this building features 3 additional aero bridges, bringing the total of the aero bridges to 5, and 24 new check-in counters in addition to the existing 22 and 14 self-check-in counters. This is our new terminal extension, which we are no doubt going to open in phases starting with January. But the building is there, you can see. When you go there, you can see. Even the inside, many people have had a chance of inspecting it inside there. And you can see many of the state-of-the-art technologies that are inside there. And these things are very costly. Ugandans, I want to tell you that many of us who are very deeply engaged in these terminal extensions and constructions are very expensive. The terminal building is expected to be opened to the public in a phased manner starting with January, as I have just said. And once open, the terminal capacity will be enhanced from the current 2 million passengers per year to at least 3.5 million passengers annually. And of course, this is within our strategic plan. Fellow Ugandans, we are not saying that this is the ultimate. Rather, we are doing what we can to move towards the target of getting our number of passengers at 10 million passengers in the next 10 years. And we are moving in that direction. This is, of course, the pictorial representation of what is happening at Entebbe International Airport. Please don't think that this is Dubai or anywhere else. This is Entebbe. This is Entebbe, actually. You are likely to think that this is not in Entebbe. This is actually, physically, you can touch it in Entebbe. This is one of the lounges in that new terminal building on the basement, on the ground floor. Again, this is Entebbe, it's not anywhere else. The exterior of the new terminal building and the right is the part of the interior. That is the exterior, but the interior is the tall one, the one you see which is tall. This is the air side of the new extension. Maybe I go back to it. We would like the whole of the terminal building, and I will be showing you what we want it to look like at the end of this presentation. This is the new extension, but remember that we have the current terminal building that was completed in the 70s that of course doesn't look like this. And our task today is to make both of them look like this in what we have termed as harmonization of the terminal building at Entebbe International Airport. And we are starting on that activity. I want also to tell you that what we have seen, it is extremely difficult to turn an existing building facility into a new facility to look like the one you planned. It is very, 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 very difficult, and you have to do it carefully. And remember, we are doing this without suspending operations. At times, Ugandans, and we welcome this, are not so kind. When they find facilities wanting, they don't actually sometimes immediately understand that we are operating while rehabilitating. But of course, I want also to thank them when something good happens, like happened when we opened our arrival and departure extensions. They were, of course, very, very appreciative, and we got very, very, very good recommendations. And we want to always thank you for that. That now makes us forget the earlier criticism that you always give us. And it is very, very, very refreshing to see that the same people who almost wanted to see, who are criticizing you before, are now coming out in big numbers to appreciate what is happening. And of course, that is the role we always are in every other day. As you know, in the mandate, I also showed you how we are also responsible for the provision of air navigation services as of now. And government embarked on the upgrade and installation of the new navigation systems and landing aids at Entebbe International Airport, Soroti, Kasese, Hoima, and also Guru. Plans to upgrade the navigation aids at Kisoro and install new navigation aids in Arua are underway. Other nav aids will be considered under the new airport development projects. UCAA has also enhanced air-to-ground communication between pilots and ATC through the implementation of VHF, that is external range network of radios in Entebbe, Soroti, Guru, Masindi, and Kasese. This has also improved two-way communication and coverage within the Entebbe Flight Information Region. Phase 2 is underway, under implementation to address the remaining blind spots that still exist within our airspace. Now, all these are being done at the same time with infrastructure development in Entebbe International Airport. And it has been an ongoing activity that has been there. And we want really to upgrade our air navigation systems. As you see that last bullet, there are still some blind spots in some places which we want to eliminate in the current upgrades. We have also embarked on enhancement of the air traffic control surveillance service to guarantee safety of the airspace. And in the financial year 2025-26, the current radar system at Entebbe will be upgraded to improve coverage and reliability. Coverage also including those blind spots that we have been existing. And from financial year 2026-27 to 29-30, there is a phased acquisition of a state-of-the-art surveillance system, including a backup in form of an independent overlay based on automatic dependent surveillance to guarantee continuity of service and availability. This means improving the whole of our radar monitoring systems. Again, just to inform you that these are not cheap. These are very, very, very heavy investments. And as you know, Chief Guest, at times we want to appeal to government, I mean Minister of Finance, to really come in, because these are not day-to-day investments that we usually want to see. Because what we usually do with our revenues that we collect in our facilities, usually we are trying to recover the costs, but also reinvest the thing. But these are major investments that we feel that the government should come in and give us money to do that, because I am going to show you some of the costs that are involved. But so far we have been using our own money to do this, because and we, thanks to the board and the ministry, we sacrifice many other activities to make sure that facilities are there. But that should not be. These are major national assets that the central government should come in and really invest in. But of course, the negotiations are always underway with the Ministry of Finance. We have also installed a portable airfield ground lighting system for Soroti, and this means that this is meant to aid night training for the East African Civil Aviation Academy. This is what I'm talking about. UCA does not get really enough revenues from Soroti Airport to be able to install these really very expensive installations. But because we are in charge of aviation, and this is our training academy for the government, we are compelled at times to install these very expensive equipment. But we don't pick any equivalent revenues from there. Of course, as you said, this is really a contribution to government that should always be recognized. We have also installed the dual view RAP scan and walk-through metal detector to improve on the effectiveness of the security of Arua Airport. Again, these are investments into these facilities that do not actually correspond with the revenue returns. Constructed a taxiway link at Soroti Airfield to address the risk of collision by aircrafts. Construction of a car park with a capacity of 100 cars to serve the new terminal building at Arua. We have also constructed an landside separation fence at Soroti Major graveling works were undertaken to restore the deteriorating runway and apron surface at Pakuba and Moroto aerodromes. All this I am talking about, I want to emphasize, actually working with, we are getting the revenues from the rest of the facilities of especially in Entebbe International Airport, just to upgrade the upcountry aerodromes, which, by the way, even in our documentation, is supposed to be a duty of the central government. But we can't sit back and see deteriorating facilities, and especially those that hinge on safety, and we just simply keep quiet. But surely this is an area that should be addressed, Chief Guest. Regarding other improvements, the President of Uganda, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, flagged off works for the taxiway and runway apron at Jinja Aerodrome in January 2025. Works are actually in advanced stages in that on that aerodrome. The works are at 72% physical performance against 50% financial performance. The expected completion date is April 2026. We have really this is about Jinja Aerodrome. Again, in the same spirit. These are the photos ongoing works at Chimaka. We are tammacking it. We have had a facilitation meeting for the East African community. This took place in November 26, 28. We have had a regional meeting of delegates of EAC states who deliberated on the review and progress of ICAO standards, strengthening regional cooperation on air transport facilitation. This has just ended last month. Other activities, full-scale emergency activities. These are mandatory activities for the full-scale emergency exercise to assess Entebbe International Airport's readiness to respond to emergencies was successfully done. This tested interagency coordination, assessed incident command, and evaluated emergency medical services. These are what we are enjoined to do mandatory. These are mandatory exercises for us to do, and they are, of course, audited in our safety audits. Various stakeholders participated in the exercise in compliance with ICAO standards. We also would want to, there's those emerging obligations that we need to do. We, together with AirServe, we had Women in Aviation International, Uganda Airlines, and UCAA hosted 100 girls from various schools as part of this Girls in Aviation. Of course, apparently, the whole of aviation, global aviation, we are trying to improve to have inclusion of women in aviation. And there is no any other way other than starting them at that age to make them get interested in aviation activities. And we've been participating in this as part of our stakeholder activities. As I said earlier, this was the launching of Uganda Airlines Gatwick route that took place at Entebbe in May 2025. This is of emphasis because, as we keep saying, Uganda Airlines is a home airline, and the expansion of activity of aviation in Uganda, frankly speaking, will be very, very much easy with the expansion of Uganda Airlines. And that's why we are focusing on Uganda Airlines expansion and routes. And that's why the management and increase of routes of Uganda Airlines have big importance to us. Because one of the ways to promote aviation is directly related to the promotion of Uganda Airlines. And we want to thank government because government really has invested a lot of money in Uganda Airlines, and they are continuing to invest in it as of now. And of course, The Entebbe International Airport expansion, those expansions, yes, they are for many of the airlines that we are continuing to receive. But mainly, Uganda Airlines has a big stake in Entebbe, and each time that's why we need to have a coordinated planning with them. Their strategic plan must also be discussed always with us to know what the plans are so that we respond in terms of expanding activities, expanding our regulatory services, and so on and so forth. These are the regional meetings that we expect in the coming months and years. And some of them are actually global meetings and regional. They are there. Uganda Air Transport Safety Engineering Association hosted International Federal Air Traffic Safety Association meeting, regional meeting in Kampala. The presentation was delivered by one of our staff, and recognition of the presentation, the relevance and impact. It was invited to present the same paper on the global stage in the FATSEA General Assembly in South Africa in November 2027. This is our participation in regional activities, and our staff are very much, they participate very much in those activities. In October 2025, Emirates celebrated 25 years of uninterrupted service in Uganda. It was a big activity, and the Emirates representation is here. The Minister of Works and Transport, General Katumba Wamala, was the chief guest. We expected that Uganda hosted also the 20th Northeastern African and Indian Ocean States Satellite Network, NAFSAT Supervisory Board. That was in October. We also resolved to strengthen and modernize the NAFSAT network through continued regional cooperation. These are ongoing activities that we always do together with colleagues in the region. We revamped and got a more spacious Karibuni lounge. You should see how much the commendations that we have got for Karibuni all through. And I want to say that you don't get this facility anywhere in this region. This one I am telling you as a matter of fact, not only in this region, but even in some Western countries. I don't want to tell you the country I was in just a few days ago. They don't have a first and business class lounge that really is anywhere near Karibuni, the current Karibuni. So we want to thank Karibuni, we want to thank everybody who has participated in this. But we facilitated them to do that. And I want to encourage you to go there and see it. Again, you might think that you are in another place, not Uganda. The beautification of the VVIP facility in Uganda, the rehabilitation works were recently undertaken at the facility, which is used to facilitate the head of state and the visitors. Again, that is in Uganda, it is not anywhere else. The global trends. Now, I am calling it a global trend, and the first one is this separation, because we are actually bravely taking this responsibility to separate service provision from the regulator. This process of separation of the regulator and air navigation services provision from the management of airports has progressed with a roadmap presented by UCAA consultants to the authority, which was done in November. And we are doing this, of course, as a global imperative, of course, recommended by UCAA, to separate the regulation of civil aviation from the operation. But as maybe I give you the background. As you know, we have been together. We have had a regulator within civil aviation, which also operates airports and provides air navigation services. And because of the size of the industry and the kind of revenues that we have continued to have, we were unable to separate these two until now. Because we do not want separate, and then we have every entity to fail. So we have kept together with internal separation, which of course was also accepted by ICAO at that time. But the volume and the size of the aviation industry today has grown in such a way that this internal separation is not possible going forward. So we started activities ourselves, and the key word is orderly separation, because we do not want anyone to order separation and then we separate in a disorganized manner, and then we kill the whole industry. Even as of now, Chief Guest, this separation has got to be done extremely carefully to make sure that the industry remains intact, every entity performs its mandate, especially regulatory mandate, and of course operation also remains an operation. It is not meant to separate and then each one goes their own ways without sustaining the other. So that is why we are extremely careful. And a three-phased approach was proposed, comprising of a legal and institutional phase, and operational and financial transition phase, and stabilizing and optimal phase. So even as we separate, we are phasing this separation so that we move in an orderly manner until we are able to see the stabilization that is mentioned in that bullet. The separation will systematically be accomplished while ensuring that the emerging UCAA and the airport operator can effectively and sustainably perform their independent functions and sustain other critical aviation services. The separation will also eliminate conflict of interest, which is the key, really. They ensure stronger oversight and enhanced efficiency in service provision, as airport management will focus on prioritizing passengers, customer experience, and airlines compliance with international best practices and governance. That is what we are trying to do achieve through the separation. We also have another sustainable aviation fuel. Of course, these are global imperatives that are being given to us to implement also in our area of operation. The final draft report for the Sustainable Aviation Fuel SAF feasibility study for Uganda was presented to the stakeholders by UCAA in partnership with ICAO and the government of the United Kingdom in December 2025. We got assistance from United Kingdom. The study confirmed that Uganda has significant potential to produce SAF, that is sustainable aviation fuel, using rich biomass resources, an opportunity that could strengthen environmental protection, support energy security, and also unlock new socio-economic benefits for the country. Again, this has been presented to government because you can see the benefits go beyond UCAA. We are among the first African states to voluntarily join ICAO COSIA scheme in 2019, demonstrating the country's strong commitment to green aviation and climate resilience. The SAF program now moves into the next phase, developing national business case study that will guide full implementation of collaboration with key ministries, UNOC, and aviation stakeholders. Uganda remains committed to contributing to the global aviation decarbonization and positioning itself as a regional leader in sustainable aviation fuel. As I said, these are global trends that we enjoy actually to implement, and we are really moving on with the rest of the globe to do that. Uganda's combination of biomass availability, waste management needs, and strategic infrastructure provide a strong foundation for SAF production and development. With qualified technical potential well exceeding 300 to 850 million liters per year, certified pathways and airport readiness, Uganda is positioned to progress from feasibility to first generation production within this decade. A robust policy framework, blended finance support, and coordinated leadership through National SAF Council will enable Uganda to become a regional SAF pioneer, advancing energy security, economic diversification, and climate-aligned growth in East Africa. Again, this is another important milestone. Uganda was elected the International Civil Aviation UCAA Council for the 2025-28 term during the 42nd UCAA General Assembly. And at this juncture, I want to mention here that our representative to UCAA, Cabs, is our keynote speaker. Please stand up for recognition. I know that I am doing that prematurely. His CV and other description will be presented by a competent authority during the time of his keynote address. I am not going to delve into those, but this was a very, very, very hectic moment for Uganda, I must say. And in this, I want to thank Cabs here, our minister, our board, the management of UCAA, and all other stakeholders, our embassies in Canada, for this really, really sustainable. And you are going to see the details what happened. Out of the 185 votes cast by the 192 member states, Uganda secured 155 votes. 155. Mark you, only 30 votes were not ours. Only 30. That shows you really our presence in the international community. And I want to thank you, Cabs, for this. Because many countries were getting 140, those kind of things. Even very, very well-to-do countries, I'm not going to mention them here. But I was really, really very, very happy to see that. Whereas some people think people do not know Uganda, but you can see those are statistics which don't lie. As the highest decision-making board of UCAA, the Council is entrusted with setting international standards and recommended practices that govern the aviation industry and worldwide. And we are there at the setting of standards. He's there. He's our representative. So we are not just sending someone from Ethiopia, from where to go and represent us. We can summon him here. He comes, we tell him we want this. Go and represent us. Without going through any other person. So thank you very much, Cabs, for that. We are honored to take this responsibility and contribute to advancing safe, secure, and sustainable air transport globally. It is a vote of confidence in Uganda aviation industry and Uganda as a country. This is the picture. This picture was taken in Montreal after the voting. Of course, there were many people who wanted to be with us from other countries, but we say this is now Uganda. Don't joke around. There were many other people. We come to the future plans. One of the future plans, actually, which I want to emphasize here, aviation works with global ratings in both audits in aviation safety, but also in security. As you know, we are currently, and that's I have not put these statistics here. We have now 72% we scored 72% in aviation safety and 81 point something percent in aviation security. But our main aim is actually to move 81 for security to 90%, but also move 72% to 85%. That is where we want to be. And we can't be there alone without the stakeholders, because our oversight activities are always reflected on how we manage, we oversight the industry, and we can't oversight ourselves. We're oversighting the industry. So when we come to you in the near future, don't think we are harassing you. We are moving towards the target of scoring those targets. And that is really our main activities. In fact, when we separate, we are going to focus only on that, mainly on that. And that is really the plan we have. And I want to move with you, all of you, and Ugandans and the government system, that is what really we are aiming at. And what are the benefits of being scored higher in those audits? Because that is when confidence is developed in our aviation system. It is not about, okay, it is about all these airlines you see coming in here are coming here because they are confident about our oversight systems and how safe they will be once they are in this country. So that is our key plan which we have. So when we come to you, please, so far you are responding to our messages, our so far, and I want really to ask the people in this room to clap for our air operators, our air navigation service provision, because so far they are really trying within limited budgets. And but we shall request you to even do more than you have so far done in the coming, because we have a target to fulfill. Other future plans, the level of drone operations in Uganda is growing and presenting enormous economic opportunities to this country. However, drones pose a number of safety and security concerns which we need to observe. The current tripartite framework focuses on regulatory approval for operations in the segregated airspace, and efforts are underway to acquire an automated unmanned aircraft system management that will enhance monitoring of safety, security, and compliance of unmanned aerial vehicles and drones in the entire airspace. Can I maybe, if you don't mind, let me accept here that the technology of drones, of course, came to us. It found us unprepared, I must tell you. This is an admission, and I am sure even I care. But sometimes technology moves so faster than regulation. And we are always improvising. This tripartite framework that we used was actually an improvisation, because on one side it is security threat, but also we can't take away the innovation. Innovation is innovation, you must embrace it. On another side, it is safety related. So we had to put in a framework, an improvised framework that would manage the situation as it is. But actually, in actual fact, we are taken unawares. Not just us in Uganda, but even globally. But right now we are getting to address the matter, and we are really on top of it right now. And we can't guarantee that in the near future we are not going to get more challenges, especially technological advancement-based challenges. I have a challenge here of technology, which I'm talking about. We are scheduled to host the African Cup of Nations, AFCON, in 2027. Aviation structure will be key in facilitating the event, and several other international conferences that the country will host in 2026. One, the construction of Kidepo International Airport to boost tourism is being undertaken by the Sharjah Chamber of Commerce, who have signed a memorandum of understanding with them to launch the reviewed 20-year master plan, 20-year Entebbe International Airport master plan for 2026. We are trying to finalize a few things about the Entebbe master plan, but it is hinged on the future of the facilities of the future that we want to have, but also, of course, on the acquisition of enough land for those facilities. An air show expo is planned together. This is done together with the Pilots Association for for this coming year in 2026. the last one having taken place in 2023. Completion and operationalization of Kabarega International Airport in Hoima. Again, this is a facility that is planned to facilitate that AFCON. We've been working on it. We are almost in the areas of completion, but still, because we have to work with others, electricity and other people are still, of course, finalizing there. And you have seen, of course, that the stadium in Hoima is complete. So we don't want to be left behind by those activities. We want also to get an equivalent airport that will facilitate the tournament. These are airfield ground lighting system, the display system at Kabarega International Airport. Again, this is in Uganda, not even in Kampala, but in Hoima. Really very good, a very good runway, I must tell you. You may have issues with other facilities, but don't have any problem with the main runway at Kabarega International Airport. This was very well planned. Government through the UCAA has plans to upgrade Arua into a regional international airport. The planned scope covers a new paved runway, 3,500 meters long and 60 meters wide, taxiways, apron, control tower, terminal building, fuel facilities, access road and car parks. The second phase shall include expansion of the terminal facilities, cargo center, and related infrastructure. I want to tell you about Arua. Arua is currently standing at the congruence, maybe the right word would be the hinterland, of several countries. There is South Sudan, Central African Republic, and a vast area of the Congo. In fact, I hope I am not being undiplomatic. There are many people from Congo who know Arua more than they know the other side. I can tell you that. So we are actually missing an opportunity of making Arua one of our big aviation facility for the benefits of an international passengers in that region. So we want to focus on it, and we want to really encourage the government system to come up and also help to expand it and do that. It has potential to be like Entebbe International Airport. The first phase of the project is estimated to cost $143 million US, approximately 529 billion Uganda shillings. The sector is currently engaging the African Development Bank. Of course, they have shown interest, but we are still at an engagement level. The airport will initially be designed as a Code 4E airport with the biggest aircraft will be a B777 as a design aircraft. Usually when we are designing these airports, we have a maximum designed aircraft that can land there. And for now, we think that this 777 would be adequate for our purpose, but with potential to upgrade it later. The airport will initially be designed, yes. Environmental social impact assessments has been, and feasibility studies in compliance with the public investment management system has been undertaken, and the Ministry of Finance has sought for clearance of the funding from African Development Bank. So soon we shall embark on that development. We plan also to upgrade Kasese into the same size of airport, fully equipped with a paved runway, associated taxiways and aprons and other facilities. This is inspired by the need to promote cross-border traffic, tourism, and cargo transportation. Again, just to remind Ugandans that there is a lot of potential in that part of Western Uganda. Kasese is really a sleeping giant because of the physical features of that area and the big game that you find in those facilities. And it can also, of course, be connected to even the Mugahinga areas of the primates and others. So again, sleeping giant in that region. The master plan and details of engineering designs are completed. Land was acquired, and with existing, it could be merged with existing 168 hectares, and is fenced off. The China State Engineering Construction Company has shown interest, and we have signed an MOU. Of course, again, not yet concluded. The technical and financial proposals have been forwarded to Ministry of Finance for possible for finalize and funding arrangements. The upgrade of Guru as an international airport is being, of course, fast-tracked to facilitate AFCON. The project is expected to be undertaken by an Egyptian firm, Samco. Again, studies have been done, designs have been done, and all what we are remaining with is the approval of the funding. And it is together with the road, I think, moving into Rira, connecting it to Akiboa Stadium in Rira City. This is what I was telling you about. Our harmonized building. This is the harmonized terminal building. The land side will look like this. This is just part of the land side. It's not the whole of it. And that is the bridge. This is the front view after harmonization. Please look at it very carefully. That's how it will look like. Of course, we still need to inject in some bit of money, as I told you. Harmonizing an existing building and building a new, you'd rather build a new one. But we have no way of throwing out what we have, especially when we continue to operate, to use it for our current operations. But we are trying very hard, and I want to thank the UCAA team, the board, UCAA team, and all other stakeholders who are really putting their head together to have this kind of thing. I can assure you, once we complete it, many people who left this country 2-3 years ago will not know that they have come back to Uganda. And I am assuring you on this. But of course, the hurdle is to get enough of the funds. The future plans, we want to host the International Federal Air Traffic Controllers Association. Uganda will also host Association of African Aviation Training Organization. These are areas where we are very, very active on the globe, but also on the continent. The challenges here, and since I am addressing the country through our media platforms as well, Uganda is a landlocked country. Other people want to call it land-linked. Our future development plans, our future transport, the most reliable transport is actually air transport. We are trying to have discussions with government to make it one of the highest strategic objectives of government as aviation. They have already started, of course, with the airline, but there are quite a number of things that we want to see done, because airline alone won't promote aviation industry on its own. It, of course, will be a major part of it. But we think that funding should be improved, especially to address our current master plans. And on Entebbe, we are somewhere. But of course, as you have seen what I have indicated higher in the last three, I think the last 3 slides, there is a lot to do with our upcountry aerodromes. Again, land in this country has become a problem. We must prioritize land for public investment, especially airport expansions, starting with Entebbe and elsewhere, in accordance with our master plans. Government debt, and here I want again to be clear on this. Sometimes I think even officials of government believe that maybe we get money from the consolidated fund. They come and pick facility. They are facilitated in our facilities, not knowing that what we do actually is the cost recovery. What we invest in this is actually what we we charge. He's always proud back in these facilities. But some, and unfortunately, government for government entities think that these are mere government facilities where the consolidated budget will always come in. And because of that, there is a big government debt. The current debt stands at 166 billion Uganda shillings. Can you imagine it? If we go to this money, we would complete Kasese or Arua. Sometimes we are not saying this because we don't have money, but our services at times are taken for granted and they are not paid for a long time. Yes, we appreciate that some government departments are also not very adequately financed. But if we are to get all this money, we would do wonders in some of these facilities. 166.6 billion Uganda shillings is out there in the government debts. And of course, there are efforts of government agencies to have the debt cleared, especially through our board and the Ministry of Works and Transport. But it had better be cleared sooner than later. Aviation needs to be mainstreamed at a strategic national level. This is what I was saying, so that we are able to see this sector because of its multiplier effects to other sectors. Let me tell you, there is no tourism here without aviation. This one I can tell you with a lot of authority. If you want to know that, just go back to the time of COVID. The mere fact that the Entebbe International Airport was closed, there was absolutely no activity in the national parks. There was, I don't think that you saw anybody here. There was nobody even sleeping in these facilities, these hotels, except a few Ugandans who want to rest a little bit, but not so much. Even other activities like tour operators, they were all quiet, all silent. I can tell you that. So that actually, if nobody learns the importance of aviation at that time and air transport, should have known at that time. So you may not get this. You may not get this directly, but there are always indirect benefits that we see. We've tried, of course, to compute the contribution of aviation to the economy of the country. It is too enormous. With that, I want to thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. I am sorry I may have taken long, but of course, activities of the year and the future plans and telling you the space we operate in and its constraints takes a little bit of time. I want to thank you so much for listening, and of course for coming here. I don't know why you had not recognized. Honorable Segona, please stand up for recognition. This is a very big stakeholder in the aviation industry, and we want to thank you for that. Even in the midst of campaigns, you can see he can really create some time and come here. We want really to appreciate your coming. Is there any other honorable member of parliament that is here that I have not recognized? You can see. Thank you so much. Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my singular honor to invite the one and only current representative of Uganda on the Council of International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, Mr. Cubs Trijuke, ladies and gentlemen. Let's give him a round of applause.
So let me start by thanking you all for coming. I also want to thank the guest of honor and representative for the minister, the board members, of course, special thanks to the members of parliament, because you are probably one of the most key stakeholders in this game of aviation in Uganda. The board members of CAA, the management, the press, and all the stakeholders. You are all key players. And so I thank you for coming. I want us to thank the DG again, if you don't mind. And the reason is because he spoke very well and also spoke most of the things I was going to say, which is now therefore complicated for me because I don't know what to add to that eloquent speech. But nevertheless, I'll just fill up some gaps and hope it will be valuable for you. So the first slide is obviously to thank CAA for organizing this event so that we can exchange ideas and be able to perhaps develop a plan moving forward on how we can sustainably develop air transport for our benefit. Okay, so briefly, oh no. So I will be speaking about ICAO because as you heard, that's where I am. But if time allows, I'll also talk briefly about the importance of air transport and how we can promote its growth, and also highlight a few current and emerging issues at global level. So perhaps I believe this is what I understand. Each of you did some history at school, and you probably read about the Wright brothers as being the founders of aviation, or the first people to actually fly an aircraft. That happened on the 17th of December, 1903. In other words, tomorrow will be exactly 22 years since the first aircraft flew. Now, from there, the air transport developed. It took some kind of evolution, but the evolution was a bit slow. Of course, people were very curious. They added on those foundational ideas of the Wright brothers and made some aircraft and tried to fly. But the rapid development of air transport actually took place during the World Wars. And this is the reason. In the World Wars, the militaries wanted to, of course, have aircraft that can go and bomb places, launch missiles and that kind of thing. But at the same time, also carry military personnel as well as hardware, tanks, and so on to the front lines. So there was urgent need to have aircraft that can do that. And of course, as you know, as DGCAA has already said, there is no other mode of transportation that can take you quickly to where you want to be. So air transport grew up rapidly during the World Wars. Now, as the World War II was ending, or as signs show that it would surely end soon, some wise people started sitting together and discussing how this abundance of technology, so many aircraft, a lot of experts, pilots and engineers and air traffic controllers and airports, all of them were in abundance. And so what would happen after the war? So they started meeting in places, but of course you can imagine it was not an easy thing to do. So agreements could not come for a very long time. But nevertheless, they didn't give up. Should I point it this way? Okay. So after so many protracted discussions, exactly on 7th December 1944, an agreement was reached. This agreement is called the Convention on International Aviation. And sometimes it is called also Chicago Convention because that's where the meeting took place. And this is exactly why we are here, to celebrate the signing of that Chicago Convention. Of course, Mr. Ruja already told you the celebrations began about a week ago or so. So every 7th December every year, beginning 2019, when ICAO was exactly 50 years old, now it is 80 years old, the world celebrates this day. And CAA Uganda has religiously celebrated this event for the last 30 years. So we need to clap for them. And please, every time you come here, please have a live and constructive discussion, exchange of ideas on how our air transport can be developed sustainably. And what were what is the structure of this? Of course, that convention has a lot of provisions. But the biggest outcome of that convention is the formation of the International Civil Aviation Organization, or in short, ICAO, others call it ICAO. In fact, sometimes people confuse it with IKEA, but the right name is ICAO in brief. And its objectives were to ensure that this industry, which for all the time had been used for mass destruction, aircraft were built to kill people, and that's what it was meant for all that time. So ICAO was supposed to transform the industry into a peaceful and economic tool that could help all the peoples of the world to socially and economically develop. And in 1944, remember, UN had not been formed at the time ICAO was formed in 1944. So in 1947, UN had been formed, and ICAO became a specialized agency of the UN system responsible for regulating international civil aviation. Now, how does it do it? Sorry. It does it by setting standards. And why set the standards? The standards are such that anywhere, whether in Uganda or USA, China, wherever it is, the international civil aviation develops in the same way. The aircraft is same, the airports are same, pilots are trained in the same way, the language, curriculum, everything, so that it doesn't matter wherever you are, there is that uniform and continuity of sorts. And that way, you avoid confusion and you enhance safety and, of course, security and efficiency. So the standards are meant to do that. Now, the standards, sometimes when you read, for some of you who like reading about aviation, there are two types. There are actually more than two types. But we normally shorten it as SAPs, which stands for standards and recommended practices. If it is a standard, all countries must implement it. And if for whatever reason it cannot be implemented, that country must give a reason to ICAO why it is not implementing it and when it will implement it. The other one is recommended practice. This is something you do to make aviation better and for your own good as well. For instance, it could say, please use newer aircraft. Now, newer aircraft are not necessarily risky, but they will cost you more money to operate because they are old. They are not as efficient as new ones. But no one will force you to do that, although it is perhaps desirable for you to actually do it. So that is type number 2. Then we have what we call procedures for air navigation services. This is a little more detailed, but similar to a standard. I am avoiding going into details here. The last one is what we call guidance materials. Guidance materials are manuals which are produced by ICAO to help the states to understand the standards and to even give them ideas on how they can implement the standard. For instance, it may say the pilot must be competent to fly this aircraft, or before he's given a license to fly the aircraft. But you see, it is not just giving a license. You have to assess whether this pilot is actually competent, whether he has the skills to do his work. Now, as a country, you may not have sufficient or adequate expertise to make that assessment. So ICAO will write for you how you can implement that requirement that the pilot must be licensed and competent. It will give you how he will train, the curriculum program, how many hours he will fly before he can be tested for license. And even you hear sometimes captain, first officer, how many hours does it take to become a captain, for instance, on what type of aircraft? So all those are written by ICAO to guide the states on how to implement the standards. So that's what you can see, guidance materials and that. Now, ICAO does not stop there. It has to also make sure that it carries out an assessment regularly in terms of audits. And I think you had the DG mentioning scores that Uganda got. I'll talk briefly about that. So they have to visit every country on an average of about each country visited about at least 5 years to see whether you are actually implementing the standards effectively. And they give you a score. That's what the DG was talking about when he said, in safety, we scored 72%. The average score is in about 69. In fact, we could have scored much more. But at that time, there was a transitional arrangement which was still going on, and there was the appropriate legislation had not been put in place. I will talk about it a little bit. And you also had, in terms of security, Uganda got 80%, actually 80.6% in terms of security performance. So, and again, that's way above the global average. So these audits, scare us there, they are also useful. They actually identify the weaknesses which are in this air transport system that may become a risk in terms of safety or security. And then I highlight them for every state. And then the state will do what we call formulation of corrective action plans, which ICAO will evaluate. And when it is appropriate, ICAO will endorse it. The corrective action plan is intended to fix all the gaps that were identified during the audit. Of course, for the accountants, you know, the Auditor General's report, when he sends it to the group, to the organization, it has to put out a plan to address whatever weaknesses in the system have been identified. So that's what CAPS stand for, Corrective Action Plans. So ICAO also, what it does is to help the states. It is not just like a watchdog and setting standards and coming and giving you marks. It also helps you to develop the capacity to even think beyond the standards of ICAO. And I have highlighted some of the areas where Uganda, as a member state, has benefited. Salute Flying School, which you all perhaps know about, was actually built by ICAO, free of charge for the East African countries. CAA, before CAA, there was Directorate of Civil Aviation. Everything was really mingled up. ICAO provided a project of about $10 million to restructure the aviation industry in Uganda. And that culminated into the establishment of Civil Aviation Authority in 1991. And of course, there's continuous training. ICAO sends its experts to every country to coach the national experts on how to maintain safety, security, efficiency, capacity, and of course, sustainability. So it's a continuous process. And what if you failed to comply with these standards? It's not a position you want to be in. If you fail, it will be difficult for other states to work with you in as far as aviation industry is concerned. So they start by imposing embargoes or restrictions on flights between your country and their territories. You probably have read, those of you who like reading, Air Tanzania is not allowed to fly into Europe. It's because of this perception or situation that I'm talking about. So Europe doesn't think that the oversight mechanism of Air Tanzania is good enough to allow it to fly there. So they stop your airlines from going to their territories. And if it becomes worse, they also stop their own airlines from coming to your own country. And now I don't have to say this. You can imagine the situation you'll be in when no airline comes to Entebbe, for instance, and no airline goes out of Entebbe. You heard DG talking about how difficult and protracted the process was during the time Uganda Airlines was starting the flights to UK. It was very difficult. And I want to tell you, perhaps this for your happiness, if CAA had failed the audit, it would have been impossible for Uganda Airlines to start those flights. And I think, therefore, we should give an applause to CAA because by performing very well in those audits, UK was able to allow Uganda Airlines to fly into its territory. And the UK uses the same oversight mechanism as the whole of Europe or EU states. And therefore, Uganda Airlines will not go through the same hassle if it wants to go to other countries in the EU system. So then how has ICAO performed? Remember, the objectives and aims of ICAO were spelled out in the Chicago Convention. And the overall objective was that this industry, which has been used to kill people, should be transformed into a useful, peaceful, and economic tool. Now, that ICAO, and you can test, I mean, you fly all over the place, peacefully making money because the industry is doing well. So the industry has enhanced peace among nations, and connected and connected significantly countries, and connected the countries all over the world. I don't know who said this, whether it was Roger or the DG. It was the DG. He said, if there is no air transport, tourism is completely stopped. In fact, he gave the example of COVID, and you know what happened. So it contributes significantly to GDP. Now, DG, you are disturbing people, and this is for you. I heard you say that it is complicated to make an assessment of how much directly and indirectly air transport contributes to our GDP. That must be done. It's the best way to convince the members of parliament that they must put emphasis and priority on this industry, because they must know how much it is contributing. And I think we can get a rough idea. Surely it has to be done. Unfortunately, it is complicated, yes, but it has to be done. It creates jobs. And we will talk about that a little bit. It is obviously the easiest means of connectivity within the region, within Africa, and of course, around the world. Some people could argue that you can actually get to Australia with other means, railways and ships, but it will take you probably 2 months to get there. So you cannot compare. And in terms of disasters, pandemics, the DG has already touched on that. If it had not been for air transport, in fact, COVID would not have been eradicated. You know why? Because you needed vaccines. There is no other means they would have come other than air transport. In fact, we had to even develop special standards so that vaccines, which must be transported with a lot of ice, could go on the aircraft. We don't allow ice on the aircraft, but in this case, we allowed aircraft to carry ice because it was the only way they could transport vaccines. So you can see how important this industry is, even in terms of other situations. Overall, air transport is not only the most reliable and most fastest, but it is also the safest. If you want to know, and of course this is available to you if you read, how many people die on Ugandan roads and how many people die in aviation in Uganda, you'll get what I mean. Maybe 10, 20,000 people, Ugandans, actually die on the roads. I think in the last 10 years, we have not had deaths in aviation in Uganda, except maybe, I can't remember. I believe not. So let's move on. Why do we have to regulate air transport? Actually, air transport is probably the most regulated industry or system in the whole world. The next one, I think, is World Health Organization, medicine. But this by far is the most regulated. And the reason why it is most regulated is because of the history that I have talked about. It started as a tool for killing people, weapons. So it has this benefit of helping us to grow socially and economically. But if it is not properly managed, it also has the propensity of being misused or abused and start killing people again instead of helping them to live a better life. So you have to regulate it so that it is never abused again, hopefully. It fosters friendship and trade, and the DG, I don't want to, some of these, the DGs spoke better than me. on, and I really just need to endorse it. He just touched on and said, Bliss, Kawale Airport will be used by AFCON, yes. But remember also World Cup, Olympics, and so on. So this air transport has actually done a great job in connecting people. And there is no way you are going to be friends with people you don't know, you have never met, you can't talk to. So we have to give kudos to ICAO, because now the industry is playing that role of making better friendship among the nations of the world. And we have talked about the disasters, why we need it, and need it operating safely, operating securely, efficiently, and regularly, as well as sustainably, because in the case of emergency or disasters, we will need it. By the way, we can talk about the details on how this can be done for some of you if you are interested. So, importance of air transport is it's an enabler of economic development. I think the DG did very good job of that. But perhaps to remind you, without air transport in Uganda, the flower industry would not be there. The fresh fish that is exported out of Entebbe would not be there. Or high value goods like medicines, vaccines, and that kind of thing. Tourism, I think he really talked so much about it, and I don't want to go back to it. We take it as it is. Government services, and he talked about the drones. And we shall talk about it a little bit later in passing. But you know, there are communities, Ugandans, but this I speak for all other countries. Very few countries have access to remote areas in the world. Uganda, obviously, there are remote areas where you can't reach. If some lady is having difficulties delivering, or someone has got a heart attack, the only way you can get there is by helicopter, although it's also not very well developed here. But air transport has the potential to play that role. When you want to extend essential services to your people in these remote areas where the roads are almost difficult, and understandably, you can't have a road everywhere. Islands, how to get to everyone on the island. DG, these drones will play a big role there, but I will talk about it a little more. But delivering of services, the air industry can help the government do that. Landlocked countries, Uganda, again, the DG talked about that. But also there are small state countries around the world. The Fijis, you hear about St. Kitts, I can mention many of them, Jamaica's, Bahamas, and that kind of thing. The only way you get there is by air. Of course, you can also get there by ship, but again, it won't be in time. So, importance of the question, I had a question in 2019. We had a meeting here, and journalists were asking, why should the government spend money in this industry, which is for the rich? I believe some of you may also hold the same perception that air transport is for the rich. But it's a wrong perception. And the reason that perception exists, the debate has been going on. Should we put money in Uganda Airlines, or should we put it in hospitals, or should we put it? And I think we need to do a bit of education so that people understand. So this is why the industry is important for the poor more than it is for the rich. The flower industry, owned by one man, of course, very rich. He needs air transport. But how many workers are on that farm? The people who plant the flowers, the people who weed the flowers, the people who pick the flowers, the people who pack the flowers and then load it before the rich man takes it to the airport. How many are they? Very many. But unfortunately, those people do not know where the fish, maybe they don't know where the flowers go eventually. They don't know the connection. That's why I'm saying we need to continue to exchange ideas in this forum, especially the media, on how the air transport contributes to poverty alleviation. The fishmongers, the rich man is not going to go to water looking for the fish. There are people who are sleeping on the lake, sometimes just in their pants, catching the fish at night and bring it to the factory. They don't know where it goes. They don't know how it gets there. If you ask them, should we give money to Uganda Airlines? They will say, no, we are suffering. Give us the money, our money. But what they don't know is that if the airline stops, their fish won't go. And they will be poorer. The workers. So I can continue. The story is long. I can continue with workers in hotels and so on, those who wash the linen, those who serve the guests, and so on. They don't know. But air transport is just a chain, a component in the value chain of our lives. You remove it, a lot of things will go wrong. So if you have the same question now, I hope I have convinced you that actually majority of the beneficiaries of this industry are the poor people. But they don't know that. If they were to vote, they would vote against the air transport. So you have to tell them that story. Some of you have read about the Sustainable Development Goals of UN. There are 17, and air transport contributes to 15 of them. We can have that conversation later. But I have also some figures for you. In the whole world, air transport contributes 4 trillion, sorry, where is this? Yeah, so 4 billion, not 4 billion, sorry, it should be trillion, to global GDP. It also employs 87 million people, directly and indirectly. Now, what about Uganda's position in the global aviation community? I think the DG also has already done that. But just to remind you that Uganda joined the ICAO, which was formed in 1944. We joined it in 1967 and has since that time, and I think this was eloquently given to you by DG, Uganda has fulfilled its obligations as a member state. Safety and security performance is very good. That's why our airlines are allowed to fly wherever they want to go. Excellent standing in the global community. You heard that Uganda was elected with very good votes. In fact, Uganda was the best, had the highest vote in Africa. And we have also had Ugandans serving ICAO in different positions. And I think this is again another contribution, another to our image. We had our board chairman, late Balidawa. He was regional director in Nairobi. He did a wonderful job. Even today, when I tell them I'm from Uganda, the first thing they ask me, do you know Mr. Balidawa? Yes, I know him, but he's gone. Later on, Mr. Baraka Shambo took over that role much later, of course. We have people like Milton Tumsime, He was one of the he has just left ICAO, but he was one of the best inspectors ICAO ever had. In fact, he won personal awards 3 times. And then we have our own Mr. Opolot Andrew, who is still with ICAO in the legal department. ICAO. So ICAO audits, I think the DG also touched on it, but I want to just highlight one point. In the safety audit, we got 72%. Now, and of course, when ICAO is auditing, it looks for specific elements. Now, one of the elements is called accident investigation. You can call it organization, agency, whatever. Originally, it was under CAA. And in 2016, when we got an ICAO audit, that area of accident investigation got 67%. Now, of course, the idea would have been it should improve. So with the audit that came in 2023, it should have gotten more marks, but it fell from 67 to 20%. Why? The reason is it had just been separated from CAA. And every time you make significant changes, the law must be amended. But the law had not been amended. And once we don't have the law, you also don't have the regulations. So when they came, they found, yes, good. The unit has been separated from CAA, but that's it. So it was worse than when it was under CAA, but it is very easy to fix. And some work led by our minister, supported by CAA, is being done. Even if this area of accident investigation had just scored the previous score, CAA would be at 85%. So in fact, this is unfortunate because one bad apple made all the apples in the basket lose. But again, because the score was already very good, even if that 20% created a dent, we still remained at 72. So that's why the DG is saying CAA and all the collaborators, and I will mention them, are doing everything possible so that by the time the next audit comes, this AIG is at 70 something, and the overall score will go towards 90. So we are good, and we thank CAA and government. In fact, when the auditors came, even the president got to know about it and endorsed it. The minister was personally involved, and the board. And so I think you should clap for yourselves because this is a great achievement out there. Now, so what do we need to do? Before you get to know what you need to do, when ICAO comes, it has 8 elements that they look at to determine whether you're good or not good. The first is the law. Does the law identify which organization is responsible for safety, ensuring safety, security? Yes. Has it given it sufficient powers to do that work? Yes or no? That's one. Then they look at regulations. Regulations are for implementing the acts, but they are also for implementing the ICAO standards. So every time there is an amendment in the act, or there is a new standard from ICAO, the regulations must be amended. They look at that. Then they look at the organization. How is this agency responsible for safety and security oversight arranged? And that's also speaks to what the DG was talking about. Do you have clear separation of regulations and operations? Of course, you could say yes. In our case, that is actually not the case. And that's why he was emphasizing separation, which I don't want to talk about. But they will also look at other departments, how they are arranged. If you are good, you are good. And I will tell you, okay, in terms of the act, we are good. We are not good. And I think the member of parliament here, it would be good for him to know that we shall soon go to them to ask them to amend the law, especially to include the accident investigation. The regulations, we are good. That is a matter between CAA and the minister. The organization, not very good because of the need for separation. Then the next area is to check whether the people manning that organization are properly trained. How are we? That is a continuous process because things are changing. DG talked about the drones. The drones are going to come. You are going to have to manage them. But there are new things. Innovation is changing every day. So training must continue. That area was not very problematic. Then there is another area. Do these people have the things to use to do their job? That is area number 5. Tools like computers, guidance material. When you go to check an airline, what exactly do you look for? A checklist. Check this, check this, check this. This is good, this is not good, this is... Now, the other one is, how do you license operators, airlines, technical staff, and all that, certification? There, we did well, and we had a very good example, Uganda Airlines, which had just been certificated. The next area they look for is, after you have licensed these people, the airlines, the pilots, other technical personnel, do you have a mechanism to continuously make sure that they don't lose their competencies, that they are exactly in the same situation when you gave them the license? You have to show that you have a program that does that. And by the way, remember, in the Chicago Convention, a country is responsible for safety of aviation for all aircraft in its space, whether they are its aircraft or foreign aircraft. So when foreign aircraft come to Entebbe, our inspectors are supposed to regularly have the program to inspect them, and if they find a problem, they should not allow them to go back. They should hold them and send messages to their counterparts. If you allow a foreign aircraft to leave with a known risk and crashes, you are held accountable. And the last one, when you go to those airlines or licensees and you take stock and you find gaps, how do you make sure that those gaps are fixed? Can you show us evidence? So, in a nutshell, earlier on I told you, after the audit, you develop a corrective action plan, and it specifies all the activities you need to do to get all the weaknesses fixed. So ICAO has a safety corrective action plan, a security action corrective action plan already filed with ICAO, and they are systematically going with it. And when ICAO comes, that will be one of the elements they will be scrutinizing. But for now, the biggest element that we have, where we have problems, is the law, the act. Unfortunately, CAA cannot do this. alone. In fact, it cannot do it alone. It can only propose. This will require the collaboration of Parliament, collaboration of the Ministry of Attorney General, and of course the Minister. So I hope that by the time the next audit comes, that will also be fixed. Promoting sustainability, the sustainable growth of aviation. Earlier on, of course, the DG again talked about the hotels. It doesn't matter, DG. You can have that beautiful airport, and I love it, honestly. I am proud to be a Ugandan looking at that airport. But even if you paint it with gold, if the tourism sector is not doing well, you are not going to get people to come. They don't come to see the airport. They enjoy the comfort. They like the ambience, but that's not the main purpose. It's just a facilitator. So tourism, hotel, and hospitality have to do their work. And the DG was talking about the growth of air transport. Those are global forecasts. Air transport right now carries 4.6 billion passengers a year. We are at 2.2 million. And in another 25 years to come, it will triple to 12.4 billion passengers. And it is within which the DG was talking when he said, we will be here in 10 years' time. We will have 10 million. I can't remember how many years you put it. So it's wonderful. It's a good potential. But how do we tap into it? We have to have the infrastructure that DG was talking about. The airports must have the capacity to handle the 10 million. Right now, in place, you have 3.5. So you will have now to start thinking how you will handle 10 million passengers in your airspace. So the government, members of parliament, executive ministries have to make sure that there are appropriate strategies and policies to ensure that investment in infrastructure or funding in infrastructure is done. And then, of course, we cannot forget the main key element, which is the human resource. It has to be continuous development. And what I'm saying in the last bullet there is that this is not a job for CAA alone. Remember that aviation is only a component of the value chain for our social and economic well-being. It's just a player with other players, and the players are you. So you have to make sure that you become part of that collaboration or collective responsibility to ensure that aviation plays its role, as you also make sure that other sectors that work together with it are doing their part. So, of course, I mentioned that you have to strictly comply with international requirements, or if you like, standards that are set by ICAO. That DG and his team can lead, but even there, they need other players. I see here immigration people. Those help the facilitation or capacity, but as well as security. I see security agencies. You have to work with CAA in order to ensure that those areas are fixed and we can give a good passenger experience without necessarily creating security risks. Entebbe Airport. DG, you have done your part. The buildings are good, capacity has improved. We need to transform Entebbe International Airport into an international hub. And this is critical. You cannot depend on a single destination traffic. It's not much. I'll give you an example. Qatar Airways. You all know Qatar Airways. Qatar Airways carries about 36 million passengers every year. And only 3 million actually are going to Doha to do whatever they want to do. The rest are going through Doha. Ethiopia is another example. Most of the people Ethiopia Airlines carries don't actually stay in Addis Ababa. They are going through many places, from Ugandans and so on. You know that. So that is the essence of an international hub. In terms of economy, I can bet on average, a passenger through Doha, for instance, will leave about 100 on average to $200 in that airport on food, chains for the wife or niece, or a phone. But let's say 100. 31 million passengers are going through there. They are not coming to Doha, but they are going through, and they leave $100 each on average. That is $3.1 billion just because Doha is comfortable. Qatar Airways is a good airline. People who are going to America go through Doha just because of those two elements. So if we position Entebbe International Airport as a hub, those are the economic spin-offs that we can benefit, and they come into this system. So when you are, for instance, evaluating Qatar's contribution, Qatar Airways' contribution to the Qatar GDP, you don't only consider the cash they collect. In fact, probably they collect maybe $10 billion, and probably they spend $11 billion. So you can make a decision whether you want to close it or to support it. But remember, because it is there, you are getting 3.1 billion through another channel because of it. So if they asked for $500 million to subsidize shortfalls of operation, would you or would you not give it? And that's what you have to consider when, as DG mentioned, supporting Uganda Airlines is critical. Uganda Airlines may be losing. I will tell you, a tourist from London coming here for 2 weeks pays a ticket, depending when he buys it, of about $800. That's what Uganda Airlines will collect. He will go to Africana. I don't know, but I imagine it's about $200 per night. 10 days, 2,000. Africana will pick 2,000. Uganda Airlines will pick only 800. And of course, they will pay for landing fees. They will pay for flight. They will pay for fuel. By the time they are actually talking, maybe if they are lucky, they have only 100. But Africana, if they reduce, they move all they probably have at least 1,000. So you see, that's why this industry needs to be supported, because its contribution is not in cash flow. It is in economic development. I had, if you allow me, I'll tell you what CAA did in this value chain. When CAA was established, one of the things was we must market Uganda. We must market Uganda to the world, because that's the only way you are going to attract people. We must market Uganda for exports. That's what we produce better, fish and flowers. So we decided we will have a collaborative link with UTB, Travel Board. And when we went there, they didn't have much. So I remember we went to the board was saying, but we are not tourist board. There is tourism board. Why are you doing this? We said, if tourists come, they will pay airport service charge. The more they come, the more we will benefit. But also, if they come, Uganda as a country will benefit and more Ugandans will fly. So they agreed and gave us money. We produced a film called New Uganda. That was 1992. Because we wanted to showcase how New Uganda was after the liberation. And that film competed at Berlin International Tourism Conference and actually got a silver medal. But it was produced purely by CAA. And that's really what I'm calling collaboration. We wanted to know, who are these people who are exporting and what are they exporting? I saw a man called Kasozi here, Manager Economic Regulations. I remember when he got recruited, his job was to go physically to customs every day and pick copies of way bills so that we can study and see what is actually being exported through Entebbe Airport. And we agreed that we are going to follow the biggest 6. And at that time, of course, flowers, fish, vegetables, fruits, vanilla, and I can't remember the 6th. And we started every day. Kasozi brings the way bill, we pick. We started developing our statistics. Now, guess what? IDEA. You know, there was a project called IDEA. It stands for Developing IDEA, Investment in Developing Agriculture, Export Agriculture. It was being funded by USAID. USAID, they came to us and said, we want to know, we want to have some idea how many tons of fish and flowers are being exported. Because we have gone to UBOS, they don't have. We have gone to customs, they don't have. And we hear you might have something. We told them, we just follow this. They said, aha, that's what we want. You know what they did? They gave us the first color printers and computers. I think there's another manager for strategic planning. He was the one running it. So the thing I am making clear, I'm trying to make clear here, is that the promotion of air transport is not an isolated thing. It must be done collectively with the rest of other players. Lot of the media I have put there, and I know I'm treading on a very dangerous ground, but please listen to me. Truth must be told, but appropriately. In one of our promotions for growth of tourism, we brought here the Secretary General. CAA brought him, Secretary General of World Tourism Business Council. When he came, we gave him a nice car with someone to guide him. They went all over Uganda because we wanted him to see how beautiful Uganda is. Now, in the evening, after he had finished the trip, we organized a talk with tour operators and journalists. And this is what he said. He said, you people, sometimes you are not fair to yourselves. He was a Spanish, he was from Spain. In Spain at that time, they had a rebel group called ETA. And it was bombing people on trains. In fact, it was eventually it was disarmed in 2010 or 2013. And it was big chaos. And he said, when I was going through your country, I passed by a place, and they said this is where so many people were killed in a church. Chibugetere story. And the way the media portrayed the thing was, I almost decided not to come. But when I was in that area, it was so calm that I couldn't believe that that's the place where the media was focusing. So he said to us that in Spain, when it bombs people, the media, the police, of course, will get into action, security, etc. So the media will tell a story. Today, there was a bomb. So many people were killed and others injured. But the situation is under control. Now, even business has resumed. But in Uganda, we tell a story. Chibugetere has killed people. Stop. Is there nothing that was done to normalize the situation? So that's what I mean. Tell the full story. Yes, of course, people have come, bad people are there, they have done bad things, but maybe something has already been done. Give the comfort that people can still visit Uganda after that thing. Lot of CAA we have talked about. We have talked about next audits, what we should do. But one other thing, really, apart from promoting tourism, the flowers and fish, vegetables and fruits is where we have a huge advantage over other countries. And there should be a strategy of all people, of course, policy and lawmakers, plus we stakeholders promoting those two industries. Current and emerging, the DG has already talked about the need for decarbonization. But I have also given you a figure. For those of you, the journalists who sometimes like figures, right now, aviation emits 940 million tons of carbon dioxide. And that's what we are trying to remove from happening, because you know what to do. Bad rains, landslides, temperatures uncontrolled, all of those will happen. And you see, I have also put AeroTag. AeroTag stands for long-term aspirational goal of 2050 of net carbon zero. Net zero carbon dioxide. What it means is the aircraft will be improved, they will burn less fuel, therefore less carbon dioxide. Even the routing where the aircraft go through, wherever they are heading to, will all be taken into consideration. There is COSIA, which the DG talked about, but and then of course the SAFs. What it means is that as the air transport is growing, you expect emissions to grow, but this aspiration aims at making sure that everything's done, including SAF, so that the growth of air transport does not necessarily lead to growth of carbon emissions. That's what it means. Those who are interested, we can talk about it in another time. But one other thing the DG also talked about was that Uganda is potentially able to produce and sell SAFs. Now, why? Because transporting SAFs is very difficult. They must be produced where they are consumed. Otherwise, the transportation costs will be too high. So, for our airlines to stay in business, we must be able to produce that SAF. SAF stands for Sustainable Aviation Fuels. And the world there, many financiers, banks, and so on, are ready to finance projects of states that are feasible, that can actually produce SAFs. So what we need to do is to position ourselves. Already the feasibility study shows that we are able. Let us go ahead and make sure that that is exploited. Now, then strengthening Civil Aviation Authority. When ICAO comes, by the way, it is coming to the state, but ICAO, rather Civil Aviation Authority, is the national agency designated by Uganda as the authority for aviation. So that's why they audit CAA, but in fact, they are auditing Uganda. So CAA must be strengthened, and DG talked about removal of operational responsibilities so that they can really focus on complying with international requirements. I am happy the system of separating those other things that must be separated began in 2022 when the accident investigation, which I talked about, was separated and taken to the ministry. Currently, the process is about separating Entebbe Airport, and then in 5 to 6 years, air navigation services, I think, would be good candidates to separate. This process should be supported and completed as soon as possible. Why? Because of the anticipated traffic growth, you need appropriate airport infrastructure. And the sooner you separate and give it to people who know how to run business, commercial business, the better, so that they can quickly start putting in place the infrastructure that is going to meet the increased traffic. Yeah, so the other one I had already talked about. In the medium term, I don't know, because this is for lawmakers and policymakers. We are going to produce fuel from Blissa. I think it would be important for civil aviation to be included in that concept, so that there is aviation fuel, because the SAFs are going to take a long time. In the meantime, if we get fuel for aviation at Entebbe Airport, two things will be right. One, our airlines will have a cheaper service and therefore able to compete. And also our aspiration to have air transport as an international hub will be enhanced. New entrants. The DG talked about the drones, but it is the right terminology is advanced air movement, AAM, which includes unmanned aircraft. Some of them are very good, as I had said. Many cities have now started actually doing it. I was in China recently, and we were in a park. They sent us our lunch in the park from the restaurant. But also, it is good for our tourism. People can go and see places. It is also good for our emergency and medical supplies to remote areas and also our islands. So I think we cannot wait. We have to make sure that we are prepared for them, because they are already in operation, but we are not ready. That's why I put it there. The other area which is important is cybersecurity. Originally, people used to talk. The air traffic controllers would talk to the pilot. Please turn left, go up, whatever level. Now, the world of aviation has been digitalized, almost all of it. The computers are talking together. The computer in air traffic control services is talking with the computer in the aircraft and telling it, hey, turn left or turn right or go down or approach, whatever. Because of that, there is a problem growing up, and that is the cybersecurity. There is a tendency right now, it is happening, where the signals from, of course, satellites are jammed, and now the pilot doesn't know what to do. But there is also another phenomenon called spoofing. Spoofing is where you don't jam, but you deflect the right signal and you put in your own signal. So that this aircraft thinks it is going to Entebbe, but in fact, it is going to Central Africa Republic. And the pilot won't know because the aircraft is working normal. So those are going to remain a big challenge as the aircraft goes more and more digitally or computer connected. And then the last one is closely related, but is not aviation. Tourism. We all know that Uganda is well endowed. So we have a huge potential. But if we do not take measures to aggressively market that endowment, we will remain where we are because we are not exploiting that potential. So that if you promote tourism, you'll promote also obviously aviation, you'll promote hotels and hospitality, but you'll also promote other spin-offs. I believe perhaps that should be a thank you. I probably have to. I have taken much of your time. I hope you learned one or two things about this. And if you are interested in further detailed discussion, I'm available, I'm reachable. You can get my contacts anytime you wish, and we can discuss. But I only love being positive. Please, when we are discussing, I want to hear ideas on how we can help our country develop through air transport. And then I will be very happy to engage. Thank you so much and have a blessed day.
Makes you feel like you have now understood the aviation industry or that you have gotten up to speed with the rest of the world in terms of aviation. I love the way he handled the issue of health and safety and also the legal regime for aviation internationally, which was very, very good and very good insights there. And of course, he mentioned so many other things. Like he said, he's available in case you have any additional questions or inquiries that you'd like. I don't know that your presentation is shareable, but yes, even that is also an open. I think it is shareable. Very good. Later on, at some point, I'll probably invite you to join us here in a panel discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, before I invite our next speaker, I just wanted to quickly touch base with the stakeholders who are here to give special mention and to also thank you for participating in no particular order. Please allow me. Do we have representatives from Emirates Airlines? Emirates? Yes, yeah. Let's give them a round of applause. Just recognizing stakeholders who are here today. Asante Aviation, are you here? Asante Aviation, yes, they are here. Very well done. Do we have Qatar Airways? Qatar, are you here? Represented, very ably represented. Well done, Qatar. Salute you. Uganda Airlines, are we here today? Uganda Airlines representative. Wonderful. Well done, well done. Uganda Wildlife Authority, are you here today? You see, very good. When we open our borders, like you've had all the examples, if the people come to the country and they can't go beyond, if there's nothing to see, we can't really take or, harvest their dollars, so to speak. And you're here. Syscot, are you here today? Syscot, very good. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Do we have representation from the Ministry of Works and Transport? Representation, yes, they are here. Well done. Like I said, this is a stakeholders breakfast, and I believe that everybody in this ecosystem is available. Do we have a representative from the Uganda Professional Pilots Association? Representative from... Wonderful. Wonderful. Turkish Airlines, are you here? Turkish Airlines, Turkish? Turkey. Okay. Maybe they had a flight today. I don't know. Okay. Of course, immigration. How can we talk about yes, immigration is well represented. Well done, well done. We have Nation Media Group. Now we're talking media partners. Nation Media Group, are you here? Nation Media, they were here earlier in that corner over there. KLM, are you here today? KLM representative, yes. Wow. This is very beautiful. I love these stakeholder engagement meetings because when we sit here, we don't sit as competitors. We sit as people who are captains of the ship. And at the bottom, there's competition. At the top is collaboration. So over here, we're at the top. Very good. Yes, Bar Aviation, are you here? Bar Aviation, represented very well. Very good. Uganda Media Center, are you here? Uganda Media Center, representative. Uganda Media Center. Stepped out? Oh, stepped out briefly. Okay. Uganda Aviation School, are you here? Uganda Aviation School, well done. They're here. Entebbe Municipal Council, what would we do without you? Everything aviation somehow is based in Entebbe. So you're very, very key stakeholders. Menzies Aviation, are you here? Menzies Aviation, yes. Round of applause. Hortifresh Association, are you here? Hortifresh, oh yeah, very, very ably represented. I don't know which tour and travel company that I have left out. Right. On that very same note, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to move on to our next and I would say pretty much final speaker this morning, who is not a stranger to any one of us here. He is the Deputy Chief Justice Emeritus, Dr. Stephen Kavuma, who is also the chairman of the board. He's here in another capacity as well. He's also our guest of honor. So two hats he's wearing. Let's put our hands together, ladies and gentlemen, as we welcome.
Good morning. Good morning. Okay. As the moderators mentioned, my duty this morning is mainly to deliver the message of the Honorable Minister of State for Transport, who has not been able to join us physically, but is with us in mind. And I'm therefore going to read his remarks, which are headed remarks by the Minister of State for Transport, Honorable Fred Byabakama, at the Aviation Week Stakeholders Engagement Breakfast held at Imperial Royal Hotel on Tuesday, December 16th, 2025. That's what I'm going to deliver, because although I would have wanted to say one or two things on my own, here there is a saying, meaning where there is a big drum, the small one diplomatically is humbled to listen. So here we go. Honorable members of Parliament who are here, members of the Board of Uganda Civil Aviation Authority, including the chairperson who is also here, distinguished aviation industry stakeholders, members of the press, the keynote speaker, ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted to engage with the aviation fraternity at this year's Stakeholders Engagement Breakfast, organized by Uganda Civil Aviation Authority, to share updates on the authority's milestones and plans for 2026. I commend the Uganda Civil Aviation Authority team for the outstanding accomplishments achieved in 2025, as highlighted by the Director General, and the international milestones enumerated by the keynote speaker. Your dedication will be crucial in sustaining and further advancing these commendable achievements. Uganda's election to the ICAO Council for, I don't know whether I got it right, ICAO, not ICAO. ICAO Council for the 2025 to 2028 term reflects the trust and high expectations that the international community has placed in Uganda at a transformative time for global air transport. As a council member state, the state will engage with ICAO's 193 member states to advance ICAO's shared vision of air transport for all by 2050, one with zero fatalities and net zero carbon emissions, and to drive the cooperation, innovation, and talent needed to realize the vision. Uganda's hosting of the 48th East African Consultative Meeting on Facilitation of Air Transport in November 2025 further elevated the country's profile as a key player in the development of air transport and underscored Uganda's strong commitment to regional aviation cooperation, improved passenger facilitation, and enhanced air transport efficiency. I can see many of you who actively participated in that engagement. I can really see, yes, I can see you. The ministry has taken significant steps toward signing additional bilateral air service agreements with other countries to develop a robust air transport network that connects Uganda to major cities worldwide. The Director General highlighted the countries with whom we have recently signed BASAs. In that regard, I am pleased to note that the national carrier now serves 17 destinations, including London Gatwick. As the industry gets busier, even the challenges increase. I therefore urge all service providers to ensure timely resolution of customer complaints. The Ministry of Works and Transport places great importance to the aviation subsector, recognizing its crucial role in providing direct international access and promoting tourism, trade, and socio-economic development. We fully support all efforts aimed at enhancing the vibrancy and efficiency of air transport. The ministry also overseeing the development of Kabalega International Airport in Kabale, Hoima district to support the oil and gas sector. On completion next year, the airport will be handed over to the Uganda Civil Aviation Authority for operationalization. Following the signing of a memorandum of understanding between Uganda and the Sharjah Chamber of Commerce in June 2024, construction of Kidepo International Airport in Karamoja is ongoing. This public-private partnership has strengthened relations with Gulf partners and created valuable opportunities for enhanced cooperation in investment and trade. As the authority prepares to open the new newly completed 20,000 square meter passenger terminal building to the public. I urge all service providers operating at Entebbe International Airport to ensure that the services they render to passengers match the revamped infrastructure. In conclusion, I join the previous speakers in expressing my sincere gratitude to all industry stakeholders present for honoring the invitation to participate in this important engagement. I encourage you to continue upholding this spirit of collaboration. We look forward to your feedback. And for God and my country.
Actually, if you are seated at a table and you are not seated by company or organization, you just turn to your neighbor and really wish them a happy new year and prosperous 2026. Yes, just find out who they are, wish them. It is important. You know, we have about 14 or 15 days to the end of the year. So really, 2 weeks. It's 2 weeks to end the year. Okay. All right. So now we're going to have a bit of a Q&A. I had mentioned to you the small little cards at your table, which in case you have a question, just follow the prompts. If you have a smartphone, go ahead. If you have a katochi, we shall extend the microphone to you because the katochi may be complicated to address matters of QR codes. Right. I would like at this point in time to invite the following people in no particular order. They're going to be our panelists for this very short session that we're going to have. Our panel discussion should not go any longer than 30 minutes or so. And after that, my intention is to release you before lunch so that, but I also have some very good things to give to you. Civil Aviation Yegabudde, so please don't rush. Don't rush to leave. I will tell you what we are giving out. And yes, checking again on our stakeholders who are here. Do we have Aero Innovations who deal with flight simulation? Hey, Kumbe, you are here the whole time. All right. Well done. Is there any organization I have left out? I'll just check again. Do we have DAS Handling Services? DAS, are you here? Wonderful, yes. Round of applause for DAS. We have Vine Air. Vine Air, are you here? Oh, Vine Air, well done. Okay. So I'd like to invite the following people to join me up here for a very brief panel discussion. Please don't leave, we have some goodies for you. When I say goodies, please trust me. Civil Aviation Yegabudde. Engineer Ronnie Barongo, please come and take a seat up here. Yes. We also have the Corporation Secretary, Miss Helen Wenene. Please come and join us up here for this panel discussion that we are about to have. And
Want to attempt the future of training schools in Uganda, but the rest will be answered also by colleagues here. The training schools in Uganda, of course, are regulated by Uganda Civil Aviation Authority. There are those that belong to government, for instance, the East African Civil Aviation Academy in Soroti, but there are so many private training schools in the country. And when you ask about the future, yes, we encourage as many private people as possible to start training institutions, but they must comply. They must, and I emphasize this, compliance with the standards of starting those training schools is extremely important, and they must. But there are also those which belong to government, like as I said, Sorot East African Civil Aviation Academy, the one you call Sorot Flying School. owned by the East African community, by the way, but of course, now being managed by Uganda government. Again, but even then, it must also comply with standards of training institutions and other practices that would be recommended. At Civil Aviation Authority, we have it in plan to start a civil aviation training school, owned and funded by the Uganda Civil Aviation Authority to benefit the whole industry. And this we have been planning, and our planning, in fact, right now we are looking for an appropriate location where we can put the school. There are already seed money that we have put in our budgets to start the school. In fact, it will be even more prominent when we separate regulation from operation. Regulatory part will remain with the concerns of the school and developing the school. That's what I can say on this question. The other questions, of course, maybe if you allow me, I can ask. There was a question on government debt. Government debt, really, it is the whole government. I don't want to say this institution and the other. It won't make really any meaning, any so for no value to say the other government institution. When it is government, whether directly or an agency of government that is funded by government. But what we need to know is that the government is committed to paying this money, and all I was saying is that it should pay this money quickly, not sooner than later, so that we are able to use it in our development activities.
Good morning, everyone. Yeah, it seems it's my first time to speak to all of you, so it's an honor to greet you first. First of all, I'd like to thank the person who raised this question because it must be affecting many travelers who are traveling with the national carrier, Uganda Airlines. Maybe before as I answer this question, I'll first give what could cause flight cancellation. Could be caused by various factors. From the safety point of view, sometimes flight cancellation can be positive because it guarantees safety and of operations, and also from security point of view. But from the economic point of view, flight cancellations affect travelers' schedules. And the question is that it stated, what have we done as regulators? Because we value our customers, the passengers, they must be affected by these flight cancellations. We have had a number of flight cancellations, not only recently, but also in the past. Whenever there are cancellations, they are supposed to be reported to the regulator. And I'm glad that Uganda Airlines, who is also in our midst, they have reported all flight cancellations or any operations affecting their flight schedules. They have reported all. And in the past, we have actually investigated all the reasons leading to flight cancellations. Mainly, from the economic point of view, what causes these flight cancellations is mainly arising from capacity. Whether the airline has enough capacity to serve all the routes it's supposed to be having. I'm sure all airline operators have these challenges. However, there are supposed to be mitigation measures when you cancel a flight. Some of the mitigation measures is to have reserve capacity, but also to do cooperative arrangements with other airlines. This one we have advised the airline to have cooperative arrangements with the airlines on all the routes. I'm glad that now they have started doing that, but previously they were reluctant to have cooperative arrangements in terms of code sharing and interlining. That's the strong point where we have advised them. If they had made this, they had put this in place, our passengers wouldn't be having these problems. If there's any flight cancellation like on Lagos route, they would be having another operator flying to Lagos, maybe via different points, and they reschedule those passengers to that operator. and this is something we are going to follow up with the airline. Then the other reasons, of course, we are doing consumer protection, where we investigate and see where the airline was a bit reckless. Then we take them on board to really get a solution for these passengers. And some of the complaints we have received have been investigated, and some of them have been some of the consumers have been really, their issues have been addressed. Of course, it's painful, but at least it helps both the consumer and also the airline is able to either do a refund or do some other mitigation measures. The recent cancellations, the issues have been reported to us. Most of them are still under investigation. Others are touching other sensitive areas, which I cannot really mention here in the public. But once investigation is concluded, we are going to have a one-on-one meeting with the airline and resolve these issues once and for all. But also as advisors to government, we have also intervened and also advised the ministry on what measures they need to do on the airline as owners. And I'm glad that the ministry has been responsive in the recent past. Maybe that's what I can respond for the time being. Uganda Line, you are here. If there's anything I've not responded very well, you'll be able to come up and state it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We still have your questions coming through. If you have any question out there and you'd like to address it to any one of the panelists, by the way, you have an option to remain anonymous. We'll just read from the board here, which is giving us these questions. The view from Nsamizi provides a good view of the airport. Is it possible to consider relocating the tower to that point to remove blind spots in communication? That is one question that was asked earlier. And then the other is what?
Maybe you need to answer one question first.
Okay, sure.
So that we have some orderly way of movement.
Sure. I don't know who's going to take on this one. Kindly advise. This is about the Nsamizi, the view from Nsamizi.
Well, maybe someone else should have answered this question, but I can attempt to do it since I don't see Engineer Hayes here.
Please.
Engineer Hayes, can you come and attempt this question? So that you save me from all the troubles.
Thank you very much, DG. Thank you, stakeholders. The question that has been asked is related to the view from Nsamizi. Maybe for those who may not know, this is a hill just maybe 2 kilometers from the airport. It is true, it is a vantage point where you can visibly see the airport and elements of the airport. But the control tower is a specialized infrastructure at the airport, and its purpose is for the aerodrome. The location is actually supposed to be in proximity, as close as possible to the operating areas, the runways. And in fact, rather than going to Nsamizi, which is 2 kilometers away, the current air traffic control tower is to be, we've got a project where we are moving the air traffic control tower, even from the hill where it is right now, to very close to the airport, an area where maybe those who are familiar with the airport, where we have the tanks, the fuel tanks are being moved, and we're moving our control tower there. And the purpose is to have full visibility over a runway, over 2 runways, and the operating areas. So there's a move to improve the visibility from the control tower with a project that will locate it right next to the airport, Entebbe International Airport. Thank you.
Thank you, Engineer Hayes, for answering this one very well, but I felt that there's something I need to add on. When you look at the view you are talking of optical line of sight. Optical line of sight in radio communication, you look at radio line of sight. When you look at optical line of sight, it's not necessarily the best radio line of sight. So from Nsamizi, you could see the airport very well. That's very good for optical line of sight. But when you come to radio propagation, you have to do analysis to confirm that it's better than the current state. So I believe those studies are being carried out to guide the best site for a radio line of sight in consideration of the surrounding environment, the lake, the buildings, and other radio communication systems. Thank you.
Right. There's an interesting question there. What is UCCA doing about unauthorized aviation training? Okay. Training institutions that are not ATQs, and how will you protect the public? I don't know who will answer this one.
That is the same person who is
The very same person. Okay, it's
Next
still
to
in
you.
line with. Seems like you are the target fire today. Line of target. Let's go.
Sorry, I need to get that abbreviation. You said 80 what? ATOS. Yes.
ATOS.
Can you repeat the question? I can't
looks
read
like
it.
it looks like a cue from over here.
Can you repeat it?
The question says about training schools which are not registered or which are not official. How are you protecting the public?
Okay, that's a very good question. A question I've also been asking myself and asking my colleagues in EXCO. What have we done to protect members of public on those schools which are not approved by the UCAA? First of all, what we have done, we have published all the schools approved by the CA on the website. They are fully published, and also their training specs or training capabilities have also been published. That's what we have done. And also during our surveillance or through regular surveillance, if we find at training organizations offering training, aviation training, we tend to check what they are training. In most cases, what they are training is outside the regulatory scope. If we find they are training anything which is within the regulatory scope, we reprimand them in accordance with our regulations. Thank you.
Right. What is UCAA doing to attract more aircraft to the Ugandan register, given that Uganda has about 300 compared to Kenya's 2,000? Who
Unfortunately, the same person should be answering.
It's still
But I will of course help him a little bit.
okay. Maybe we should ask another question so he can bank that one. He will respond to it. Could you scroll a little bit more? We need more awareness on services together with tourism, mainly towards nationals. I think that's just a comment. It's not a question per se. Okay. Why does Uganda not have district level airports similar to those found across Kenya? And I think this one I will ask to our representative in ICAO. Kosher carbon credit selling as revenue source for airport. How far are we? I'm seeing this is about I think about our carbon emissions and the SDGs. I think it's in line with that, and I wanted to throw it that way. If you feel you would like to have a go at it, Mr. Cabs, the one right next to you. The one right next to you.
They're saying carbon emissions. What's
Kosher carbon credit selling as a revenue source for airports. How far are we? Is that a conversation within your jurisdiction?
Yeah, I can attempt.
Okay.
I don't know whether everybody knows what COSIA stands for.
No.
COSIA stands for carbon offsetting and reduction in international aviation. Carbon offsetting and reduction carbon offsetting and reduction scheme. S stands for scheme in international aviation. So those are complicated words. Offsetting. So what are you offsetting? It is not expected that air transport can completely eliminate carbon emissions. So what is supposed to happen, especially for the airlines, because the airport, I will touch on that. It is the airlines which are burning these fuels that actually produce the carbon dioxide. So a limit was set for the time being. If you go beyond that limit, then you are supposed to go outside the aviation industry, maybe go to a forest, because the trees remove actually carbon dioxide. So the airline can go and pay someone who is growing trees to keep removing a certain amount of carbon dioxide and using the money which the airline has paid, because it is emitting more than it is supposed to emit. So that's what offsetting stands for. Now, reduction, of course, I have already mentioned one. Sometimes it is called sequestration. Reduction is grabbing carbon dioxide, which is already in the air, and putting it in the ground or storing it somewhere. There are some technologies which we don't have here, which can do that. But what we have that can do that are the trees. And that's why it is recommended that airlines can go to tree farmers and buy, pay in their schemes to offset the over and above their limit. Now, as at the airports also are supposed to do some mitigation measures to reduce carbon emissions. For instance, the air conditioning you are using is one. The ground handling equipment, they use a lot of fuel and they're not very efficient. That's another area. So
Where are we? Where are we in Uganda?
where are we?
In Uganda.
Honestly, someone on ground needs to help me on that. But I wanted you to know what the airport can do, which is reduce start using electric vehicles. And I am happy I've been reading about CAA joining with Kayora. That's one way. But at the airport also passenger buses, ground power units, all sorts of those should be either solar. You can actually put solar and then channel the power to the points so that the aircraft or the ground handling equipment can use the solar instead of using oil, fuel or electricity at the airport. So I don't know where the airport is, but that's what the airport can do. Of course, we have talked about SAF, for instance. SAF requires storage facilities at the airport. And maybe it will be produced at the airport, but I don't think you have the land to do that. So it will be produced somewhere and has to be brought to the airport and stored. So the airport can play a big role there. So, but I don't know what Entebbe Airport has done so far among those measures that they could take.
Thank you very much. There was a question. If you could just scroll back to a question there about something to do with the Company or Workers Act or something. You scrolled too quickly. I wanted to get to it so I can address it to Madame Wenene, who will give us a legal perspective on the matter. It's something to do with I think it was Alia. If you could just scroll back. If you look through, you will see As you're scrolling to that question, because I thought it was a very good question to ask, especially. Hello? Yes. It had a legal angle to it that needed. No, not that one. However, it was something to do with how are you going to make sure, if I'm to paraphrase what I read, how are you dealing with the issue of having more locals involved in the aviation industry as opposed to expatriates? And it had more detail to it, but yeah, that's what I remember capturing. As we are, yes, if you continue further down, I think it was quite a number of questions have come in. Thank you very much for participating, the people who have sent in. I'll just read two more and two more questions, and then we wind up this session here. No. Okay, I'll just read another one. That is, since we're not at it yet. The DG mentioned that earlier CAA will be starting up an aviation school. For what trainings? That is one question. There's another question here. This again to I think it's in the legal framework here. Or is it possible? Sorry, is it possible as part of the requirements to renew operational licenses? They need to give statistics of Ugandans they are employing. I think it's in line with the other question. And then the question before that, if you could just scroll down a little bit. What are no up, just there. What are we doing to align UCAA mandate with the Employment Act to see operators giving more priority to Ugandan personnel? I think that is the question. I'll hand over to you. Since it's about Ugandan personnel, I think it goes beyond just being an HR concern in reference to the Employment Act. Yes, sure.
As I mentioned, this industry is strictly regulated. And earlier on, the DG and Mr. and Engineer Barongo were talking about that schools must meet certain requirements. And those requirements are not set by CAA. They are actually set. So, yes, these requirements are not set by CAA. CAA has to comply by an international requirement. If you don't want to comply with it strictly, you do better. You make the situation more stringent, more than what ICAO sets. Then you can do what you like, but you cannot do lower than what ICAO does. So you cannot employ an unqualified pilot because he's a Ugandan, or employ an unqualified engineer or air traffic controller because he's a Ugandan. I agree with you, I can see the sense of nationalism. Ugandans should be helped to train, to qualify for those jobs. But until they are trained and qualified, CAA cannot oblige, especially in those technical areas. If it is maybe in administration, you can close your eyes, those are support departments, but in the technical, it is strictly on competence. And I would hesitate to suggest that the government should make a policy to mandate air operators to take on Ugandans who do not qualify. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Just to add to what Cabs has said, has said that the aviation industry or CAA is guided by ICAO, in that most importantly, when we are amending our act, we must address those concerns which are aviation specific. However, that notwithstanding, we also take concern to the law governing the country. The Employment Act, for example, when we are coming up with our human resource manual, we must comply, and we do always comply with the requirements of the Employment Act. So there are different aspects within which, as an authority, we comply with the laws of the country, not the Employment Act in isolation, because we still, much as it's an international organization to which we subscribe to, we also must be in line with the laws of the country. But just to add a little bit, when this is for the regulator, but when requests are being made for grant of licensing to operators, there is a requirement to which they provide how many Ugandans are being employed. So there is that bit indirectly, really, they must give information for us to know that much as, because once it's registered, it becomes a Ugandan operator, it is also employing Ugandans. I hope I've given some light to it.
Maybe to add a little bit more, all the time, the preference is Ugandans. And in accordance with the spirit of the law. But in the technical areas, that you can do to that extent, but you cannot bring in not qualified. So what we should be doing is to help Ugandans to train, to qualify for those jobs. And that's why schools like Solot Flying School should be helped to do their part and do it very well. ICAO will not tell you don't employ this. For them, it doesn't matter who it is. They will just tell you the pilot should have the following. Now, also we must bear in mind that because Uganda has chosen and any country has chosen to join ICAO, it means your laws have to line up with those of ICAO. That's what international treaties do. Once you join, you cede your own laws. If you can't, and it is so strong in your mind, then you quit that organization. So yes, we have to try to help Ugandans, and that is the best we can do. But there is that limit of competence and qualifications, which if they don't have, you simply cannot employ them.
Thank you very much. What we're going to do now is just have a quick 1 minute wrap up of what your take of 2025 and something you'd like to give to as a takeaway for the people who have come for this stakeholders engagement breakfast. It's 1 minute, and after that we'll invite our guest of honor. We'll have a group photo, and then we can wind up today's event. So that's the only bit remaining with the program. So your 60 seconds, 1 minute wrap up, whatever you want to express. Yes, we'll start from this side.
Thank you very much, moderator. Thank you very much, our stakeholders and general members of the public. I want to thank you for attending this Aviation Stakeholders Workshop. Indeed, it has been a good forum to showcase what we are doing and also to receive your feedback. There are a number of questions which you have put on the online platform. We are going to respond to all of them formally. The answer MPA will advise on how you will receive the responses. We're going to formally respond to all the questions which have been raised here through our public affairs. What I wanted to stress in this workshop, you heard that the safety rating and security rating of Uganda has improved. We are at 72% in safety. We are at 81% in security. That one, we don't take it for granted. It is through your hard work and our hard work. And that's why you see now the questions which are coming are very positive. More operators want to come into the country. More personnel wants to be licensed by us. More aircraft want to be registered. Because once you are registered in Uganda here, everywhere, it will be easier for you to fly anywhere. Our rating, because of our safety and security rating. So I want to encourage you that we continue working together so that we uphold the standards we have set and become better and better and improve the experience of flying customers. Thank you very much.
Thank you. For me is to thank you because we are now in the afternoon for coming early and staying with us this long. This shows the attachment of importance to this program. Also, the take home, as said, we need to have more awareness so that we encourage our young students to take interest in aviation. And this, as I think this was presented by the DG, we have interested aviation in schools and we are paying focus on the girl child. We believe by this, if we start early, the right skills will be obtained so that we are relevant. As CAB says, aviation is highly regulated. We cannot bend the requirements, but if we start early, we can get the right skills to take up the jobs and support the aviation industry. So really just to say aviation is about regulation, and for the operators is to just encourage ourselves to comply because there is no two way out of it. Thank you very much.
I also want to thank you so much for being very patient. And I can imagine you came here, you decided to give up your whole day for this purpose, so you are interested. We still have a long way to go. What is important is, yes, as Mr. Engineer Barongo has said, Uganda has a good position, but there is still room for improvement. But in any case, it takes a lot of effort to keep that position. There is a big country from the West. It had a score of 85. In their recent audit, they dropped to 68. And it is a big, one of the seven, the G7, they are called. Yeah, so it can happen. But with efforts, you can do wonders. I think Uganda has so much to offer, but we must find a way of taking our story to the decision makers to prioritize these areas. Earlier on, I told you the contribution of Qatar Airways could be about $3 billion into their economy. When you have that because of an airline, you build the hospitals, you build the schools, you build other things. And maybe many of you have not gone to Qatar. Qatar has a population of only less than 400,000 people. But it attracts those many people, 30-something million, to go through them because of what they are doing. Why can't we do it? The last question, which you touched on, Roger, was tourism. What is CAA doing with the Travel Bureau Board or whatever? That is a good question. One time I was in South Africa, there's a lady called Jacinta. She used to be area manager for Uganda Airlines, and she stayed there. She's in tourism. So I asked her, Jacinta, where do you take the tourists? She said, I send them to Nairobi, Tanzania. And I asked, why are you not sending them to our country, your country? He said, Cabs, I would love to do that. But if I have 500 tourists going to Uganda, which company shall I deal with? Which company can handle 500 tourists at the same time? Are there buses? I am not sure. Are there? So the question is, we cannot, yes, we are endowed, but we have to change, think outside the box, how we are going to exploit this endowment. UAE exploited Emirates, and now everybody goes to UAE. I don't know. Why can't we do the same? Helping Ugandans is very important. Of course, management has also to do their own role. I'm so very happy that Uganda government has approved some more money to enhance their route network capacity. And I think that is a very important thing. And we should help Uganda Airlines to become a strong local-based airline. So thank you so much. And I'm so very happy to have spent this morning with you.
Thank you very much. I want to really sincerely thank the chief guest, the board members, and all of you stakeholders, because it would take, we could have arranged, but we hadn't, and have nobody responding. That also happens in some areas. So thank you very much. And for, of course, contributing. I can see this line of questions and suggestions shows an alert audience and one that is really giving us, following up what we are talking about. I think all what we have been doing, you have seen that aviation is about safety, security, and sustainability of any civil aviation system. And you can see that actually doing safety and security right translates into good economic gains. It is not about spending in a bottomless pit and you don't see what you are getting out. You can see good scores leading to good confidence, leading to more registration of more airlines, registration giving out more licenses to operators, even individuals. And this is the way to go. The fundamentals in this country are already set. Because of those scores and the improvements in infrastructure, we are already setting the fundamentals. And of course, we are also working on even strengthening the regulator in the separation process. So the ball is in the courts of the Uganda stakeholders to take advantage of these facilities to renew their commitment to the industry and make it work in a way we currently in its management are looking at. We can't do this alone, as I have told, as we have been saying all through. We have to move with you all through, and so far we are doing that. Those of the operators who are still having challenges, please, we are available to help each other, because this is our industry. There is no day, absolutely, where UCAA will sit back and leave the industry. Any operator to struggle, if it is in our means that we can help. Just take it from me. All through, we want to be with you and do it. In any case, you have heard that when ICAO comes here to audit, it is auditing the state. The state in this matter is represented by the civil aviation regulator, the system, the oversight system. But as you know, the regulator does not work alone. So the whole country is being audited, but the frontliner or the person on the front line is the Civil Aviation Authority, who is in charge of oversighting the system. So we'll do everything possible to make that oversight smooth through the operators, and please use us as much as we can. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Another round of applause for our panelists. And another round of applause for all of us who are participating. You have done very well. Before we go any further, please allow me to recognize the Vice Chairperson for Physical Infrastructure Committee of Parliament, Honorable Tony Owane, who is here. Let's give him a round of applause. He's right at the back there. Yes. Thank you for being part of this.
Actually, I want to add there that Honorable Tony Owane has been very instrumental in helping us to get the funding to be understood in Parliament. We are glad that you have come, Honorable Tony Wanyama. Even Honorable Mara was with us last evening when we were receiving a Malawi Airlines into Uganda. So we want really to appreciate the kind of assistance and commitment the committee, especially members of the infrastructure committee, have on the civil aviation system. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. We have just one more item on the agenda, and that is the group photo. We'll start with the panelists. The panelists will stand, and then I'll invite our guest of honor to come and join you in this photo. And for the rest of us, please make sure you don't leave before you have received that special package from Civil Aviation Authority.